Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Outsider's Opinion. I'm Kevin and I'm here with my co-host Austin. Today we will be discussing the first round matchups in the NBA and how each team has performed and how they look into the future. The first series we look at today is Lakers and the Trailblazers.
So the Lakers took a 3-1 lead following their 135-115 win over Portland in game 4. The Lakers are 34-1 in best of 7 series in which they take a 3-1 lead, and Portland has never won a series in which they trailed 3-1. LeBron in the game recorded his 19th playoff game of 30 points and 10 assists. Following their 93 point performance in Game 1, the Lakers have averaged 120.7 points per game on 51.4% shooting, including a 38.3% from behind the arc in games 2 through 4. So, what do you think is going to happen in the game tonight, Kevin?
I think the Lakers are going to destroy the Trailblazers and they'll win the series. I was expecting this series to be a lot more competitive, especially after game 1 where Portland took the first game. But now it's just been the Lakers dominating. What about
Yeah,
you?
and without Damian Lillard, it'll be very tough. They will have to ride Carmelo a lot more than they had to lately. And Yusuf Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside will have to dominate in the paint, which they haven't been able to in the series since game 1. It'll be hard for them to overcome AD, LeBron, especially if Kyle Kuzma gets hot early. It'll be tough for the Trailblazers to succeed.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the Lakers. I didn't expect much at the beginning of the season. I thought I knew they were going to make the playoffs, but I just didn't expect their bench to be this good.
Yeah, they have a lot of players that you don't think would be that good. Danny Green's been someone that I thought would do much better in the playoffs as he's already won 2 championships and been to 3. I expected him to take more of a role, and that he really hasn't. If he could step up, that'll really help the Lakers in the future. The Lakers,
Yeah,
if they win this series, will have a pretty good chance against either OKC or Houston next round, especially if Russell Westbrook stays out for Houston. OKC has been one of the best stories in the league, and I don't know if they could come back against the Lakers. So I like the Lakers' chances to at least make the Western Conference Finals. What about you?
yeah, I would agree with that. I expect the Oakland. I expect OKC to beat the Rockets, but yeah, they'll lose to the Lakers. I also forgot the Lakers don't have Rajon Rondo.
No, he's out for. He will probably be back if they make it to the Western Conference Finals, at least the finals. So I expect him to be back if they can make it all the way. However, he is a big loss as they don't have much point guard depth with him injured. So it'll be interesting. Alex Caruso has played amazing so far in the playoffs, and he will have to continue to do that if they want to make it as far as they can.
Yeah, but when Rajon Rondo does come back, it'll be a huge boost.
Definitely, especially with his experience.
Yeah. So let's move to the next series. Unless you got any other final thoughts, Austin.
I got nothing.
All right. So the next series is Denver versus Utah. And in my opinion, Utah has impressed me lately. I expected Denver to just dominate, but Utah's been dominating. And they just got Mike Conley, I believe, in the last game.
Yes, he had a child born and he left and was out for the majority of the series so far. It's been hard for the Nuggets without Will Barton, who's an essential forward in their game, and especially without Gary Harris. Also, they lose a lot of shooting. But I mean, the Jazz lost Bojan Bojanovic, who's another amazing player for them, and it's going to be hard if Gary Harris, which is a game time decision, can play. I expect the Nuggets to win and win the series because I don't know if the Jazz can keep this up against this good of a team. But MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., is going to play an essential role for Denver, and if he cannot excel against the Jazz above average, pretty actually better than above average defense, it'll be hard for the to Denver to score enough to beat Donovan Mitchell, who right now looks to be a superstar.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell has been playing great. I think he scored 53 the last game.
Something like that, a very high number.
Yeah.
He
I
definitely excelled against what I believe to be a much better Nuggets team, but has proved to be a lot worse than I thought.
Yeah, and a Nuggets team with a skinny Jokic.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. Jokic has played pretty well in the games that that the Nuggets have won. However, I think he needs more assistance on the offensive end, which he got last game from Jamal Murray, who had 42 points. If Jamal Murray can excel, he doesn't need necessarily to score 42 points, but just a solid 25, 27 will help contribute to a win. So, who do you have in the series?
I think we would agree, Denver. I think they're going to come back and beat the Jazz.
I agree, especially if Gary Harris comes back for their next game. If that's the case, I definitely expect the Nuggets to come back from down 3-1. If not, if they don't get Gary Harris back for the series, it'll be much harder as Gary Harris is a much better shooter than I think a lot of people give him credit for. And he's been clutch throughout the regular season, so it'll be tough for the Nuggets to come back. But even without Gary Harris, they have a good chance of winning the series against a Jazz team that is fairly new to the playoff scene past the Gordon Hayward days.
Yeah. Uh, so I would say let's move to the next series, the Mavericks and the Clippers, which I've been very pleased with, except after game one frustrated me deeply.
Yeah, that Kristaps ejection was tough for Mavs fans to handle in most of the NBA world. Luka has been outstanding. However, he needs another bench player, especially with Kristaps being out for the rest of the series. The Mavs need another a bench player like Maxey, who may start, but I consider him a bench player. Trey Burke, they need someone like that. Seth Curry, they need someone, maybe even Tim, who starts to go off to score at least 25 points to give Luka that assistance. That I think Luka plays better whenever he has people to pass to because he sees their shots go in and that gives him confidence himself. So if the Mavs were to come back, it's because it's not just Luka. It would have to be more players on the team stepping up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Luca is a great offensive player, but the matchup against the Clippers, they just have so many great defenders. You have Kawhi, you have PG, you got PG, you also got Marcus Morris, who's been frustrating him, even though he's done some dirty plays. They're frustrating Luca, and especially without Porzingis, you don't have another consistent offensive weapon. Like sometimes it's Tim Hardaway, sometimes it's Seth, and sometimes it's nobody. And especially Luca with his ankle injury, I don't expect. I don't know what to think. Like I expect the Clippers to beat us, even though Luca played phenomenal 2 days after his ankle injury, hitting that game winner.
Of course, Pat Bev, even though he didn't play well, and the only game he played so far this series. If he comes back, that'll be a big addition. I feel like he's another player who doesn't get enough offensive recognition, and he's obviously a really good defender. It'll be interesting to see what the Clippers do if he doesn't come back, as I feel like the Mavs have a sort of an advantage, at least at the guard position, without him in the lineup, so that they can definitely make the Clippers. Work a lot harder than they should, but I still expect the Clippers to win the series.
Yeah, and I can't believe I forgot this. This is a Mavericks team without Dwight Powell and without his replacement, Willie Cauley Stein, and we're also missing Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be tough for the Mavs. They've been riddled with injuries this season. It's going to be tough for them, but this is great experience for a team who hasn't made the playoffs since I think 2016.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. Whatever comes out of this, it helps the Mavs development.
Yeah, I remember at the beginning of the season, we didn't expect the Mavericks to make, or I didn't expect the Mavericks to make the playoffs. But it's just a season to be very pleased with, as the Mavs have just overachieved, and Luca has become even better, which I can't believe I'm saying.
Lucas played better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, especially considering the fact that he's been injured for most of the series. It's been hard for me to see that people don't realize how much an ankle injury can affect a player's ability to dribble the ball and to make fast cuts, and especially on defense, ankle injuries can definitely hurt that. So he's been a trooper, and while I don't expect them to win the series, I could definitely see them pushing it to 7 and continuing this great run of theirs as a 7 seed.
Yeah, and that's all I got. So I think we are both in agreement. The Clippers win this series.
Of course.
I would say they even win it tomorrow.
Yeah, I can see that definitely.
All right, and now probably the biggest or the most competitive matchup is OKC and the Houston Rockets.
Yes. The Thunder have been one of the greatest stories in the NBA this season. I picked them to go really far in the playoffs because I just think that they have enough experience. CP3 adds so much to the team. Danilo's been a great addition to the team. Steven Adams has experience going far, and Shai went to the playoffs last year with the Clippers. And Dennis Schroeder's been on some of those runs with the Hawks. I mean, they have underrated amounts of experience on their team, and also they have the three best real point guards: Shai, Dennis, and CP3. No one has a better point guard trio. Luke Van Dort has been amazing on defense, especially. Their team is they're one of my favorite teams to watch, as I see them as a team that I never expected to make the playoffs this year, and I definitely wrote them off. But I'm excited to see how far they can make it.
Yeah, I believe this is quote unquote their rebuilding year, or they're entering their rebuilding phase, but they're still in a deep competitive playoff matchup, which is shocking to me because you
Definitely.
gave up Paul George, but you get a lot of picks back for him, and I believe you got Shy, or,
Yes. And
and
Danilo.
then yeah, and then you trade Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, which is
And
great
more draft
for
picks.
yeah. And to look on the other side, I don't have much faith in the Rockets small ball. I don't have much faith in Russell Westbrook and James Harden playing together.
It's pretty hard to guard players like Danilo because he's such a great shooter and he can drive on occasion. It's hard for them to guard him because of his height and his ability to shoot the ball. It's definitely going to be very tough for the Rockets to play well without Russ, who I believe was essential in making sure that small ball worked because he's such a great rebounder. It's going to be very hard to for me to see him uh, stay competitive. I expect him to play. I think he will play Game 5. I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that he will. So if he does, which I think he does, it'll be a great addition to the team. However, I don't even know if that's enough to beat an OKC team that's won the last 2 games and looks to be moved.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I believe OKC take comes back and takes this series, and then they'll face the Lakers next round.
I would agree.
All right, now let's move over to the East and focus on the Raptors and the Nets.
So I had no sweeps in the bracket. I did have the Raptors winning in 5, however. And I have the Raptors winning the championship this year. They have so much experience that obviously from winning the championship last year. I believe people didn't give enough credit to players like Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka, and all those players on their run. Norman Powell, so many other names. They didn't get enough credit because they had Kawhi on their team, but I believe they could repeat this season. The Nets had a lot of injuries. Of course, KD and Kyrie were injured for the playoffs and couldn't make it. They also had players like uh,
I think DeAndre Jordan opted
yeah,
out.
DeAndre Jordan. Yeah, he didn't make it because of he had COVID. It's hard for the Nets to the Nets have many excuses. However, I did expect them to at least take one game and show some fight. So I'm pretty disappointed in how they uh, showed themselves in the playoffs, especially losing by 28 in Game 4 to sweep them. It's just tough to see a team go down that handily.
Yeah, and to me, the Raptors are just as good as they were last year, and they lost Kawhi, who I think is a great player. And it's just amazing how Fred Van Fleet is playing amazing. So is Siakam. They also have Marcus Gasol.
Yeah. I think that the Nets of the teams that got swept have the best future because they do get Kyrie, they do get KD, they do get all these players back next season. So I do expect them to make the playoffs next year and they go on a run.
I
However,
would.
I don't believe that they are better than the Raptors, even with KD and Kyrie, because I don't know how those two personalities interact with each other when they're on the court.
Yeah, I would. Uh, I would disagree about them having a great future because I believe that KD and Kyrie experiment is going to explode. I think they're not great locker room players, and their KD's always on Twitter, and Kyrie is just. You saw what he did to Celtics, who,
Yes, the Celtics are much better after him
yeah, especially with Kemba. Kemba's playing. I think the way the Celtics are playing with Kemba, I think that's what everyone expected the
with
Celtics to be.
Kyrie.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree. So
it's.
that gives us a great segue into the Boston 76ers series. What do you think?
I am shocked that they swept the Sixers. We have talked about this before. I expected the Sixers to beat the Celtics. I think it was going to be a hard fought games, and I was expecting like games, 6 games, because I didn't believe the Ben losing Ben Simmons was going to hurt them that much because he can't shoot threes. And
Yeah, but he continue.
uh, I saw like game 1, Joel Embiid got Jalen Brown was guarding Joel Embiid, and he just backed him down and got an easy layup. And I was just expecting that, but I did not. I underestimated how good Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown were because they also had a disadvantage, as I think Al Horford had to guard him, and they just made their shots.
Yeah, they're a very good team. They have much experience. When Kyrie was injured in 2018, that team grew a lot, and they realized that they could win without Kyrie. And when you add Kimba to that team, it's outstanding. I expect them to be a premier force in this league for a very long time. While I don't think that they have enough firepower or experience to beat the Raptors in the next round, I do expect them to make it a great series and maybe they lose in 6 or so. The 76ers, on the other hand, I think they have to trade one of their big stars. I would expect Ben Simmons, because he can't shoot, while he's an amazing defender, an amazing passer, and a premier finisher, it's hard for me to see them getting rid of Joel because he hasn't averaged less than 20 points in his entire career. He can still shoot the three ball much better than Ben Simmons. And I believe you'll get more for Ben Simmons from a team that's looking for one of those forwards that can take over a game uh, in multiple different ways.
I actually disagree with you on this. I think they would actually get more for Embiid, and I think with Ben Simmons, you should go with him because I don't think you'll get as much value as you would with Embiid. And then you also have to consider Horford, who's on a ridiculous contract. I think he's on a 4 year. I think he's making 26 million per year until he's like 37. So I think you have he and Joel, they basically play the same position, and I think you should just get rid of Joel because you'll get more for him, and then you can just surround Simmons with shooters, and hopefully he develops a good shot. That's my
Yeah.
take.
Al Horford this season made 28. Next season makes 27.5. The season after makes 27, and the season after that makes 26.5. So yeah, he is making a lot of money. That's a good point. And you're definitely not going to be able to move him right now because of his contract, and especially because I don't think he's as good as he has been before. Well, I do think he's underrated to some sense. He still is a relatively good 3 pointer for a center. It's hard for me to see him moving. And I understand what you're saying, but I feel like you can play him at power forward. He's only 6'9". You can play him at power forward next to Joel Embiid, and that's going to be really hard to guard for any two bigs on another team. And I feel like if they get another shooter, a really good shooter around those players, it'll make it a lot easier because they have to spread out. They can't double team Joel Embiid in the post because if you leave Al Horford open, he'll make a three. And if you get enough shooters around Joel Embiid, it'll make it a lot easier for him to back down and fade and shoot middies and do all the stuff that he can excel at.
Yeah, but that's what I was expecting against the Celtics. But I just Celtics played amazing, and I think for the Celtics in the future, if they just get a great defensive center like they had with Al Horford last year or the year, I think in
He
2018.
was there last year.
Well, yeah, last year, then I can see them making a run to the finals, especially to the Eastern Conference Finals if they just get that center because you have Kemba.
Yeah, I feel like that's why they got. Well, I don't think Taco Fall can play enough to be a very good center in the league. He can be like a Boban, where he plays 15 minutes and has 15 points and 10 rebounds because he's just that good and that tall. I think Daniel Theis is growing into that center that you're speaking of. That's pretty good on defense and can shoot the ball relatively well for what he is. He brings a lot to that team, and I feel like he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Whenever I watch the Celtics play, I'm always amazed by how well he plays. Yeah, I'm interested to see how he progresses throughout his career. He's playing 22 and a half minutes per game these playoffs. He's started every game. And while he's only shot 20% from three, he is averaging 8.5 points, and he is averaging a block and half a steal. So he can definitely grow into that center, but it's going to take some time as he's only been in the league for 3 seasons.
Yeah, I was impressed when I saw him play, especially against Embiid. He was defending him pretty well.
Yeah.
I do think they have to get rid of Cantor though, because he's not that great on defense. He is a good offensive player and offensive rebounder, but I think you just need a defensive center
Yeah.
because you can
That's why they start Theis over him.
yeah. So yeah, I would think if you went with Horford and Embiid, you would just see the mismatches as we saw in the Celtics series. But we do agree that they do have to get rid of one of those stars. They also have Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I feel bad for Tobias. I mean, he's been on some really good, he's been on teams that have gotten rid of him because they're looking to be better. It's hard for me to see him go through so much struggle. And I do expect him to get better as we go on, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah. And this was a Sixers team that even had Jimmy Butler, and I didn't really understand that move.
Yeah, they're a lot of stuff is happening that it's confusing to watch, and I just hope that the 76ers can get it moving in the right direction because I don't want to see them just go through the process and then absolutely fail once they make a couple runs.
Yeah. So I think now we can segue to the another shocking series is the Pacers and the Heat. I was very impressed with the Heat. I expected this to be a hard fought game. I expected 6 games at the most. I didn't expect a sweep from the Heat.
The Heat are a very good defensive team, and I didn't expect a sweep, especially with Kendrick Nunn being out for every game of the series besides Game 4. The Pacers need a healthy Victor Oladipo. They need a healthy Domantas Sabonis, who I don't think played this series. They need health. The Pacers have a bright future if they can just remain healthy and draft well. I don't know if they necessarily need to trade Miles Turner. However, I don't think it necessarily be a bad move because, like I said, they do have Domantas Sabonis to be that power forward, center, big man who can also learn to shoot the three ball. Um, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to see the Pacers get swept like this, but once they get healthy, I expect them to be a much better team next season. The Heat, on the other hand, I expect them to make it. I don't know how they'll perform against the Bucks in the next round, but I'm interested to see how Bam Adebayo plays, especially when I think he's going to be the one who guards Giannis. I want to see how he takes that defensive matchup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Pacers were without Sabonis, but they did have an emerging star in TJ Warren as he was playing incredibly well in the bubble.
Yeah, he averaged 20 points in the playoffs, but I mean, he wasn't the same player he was in the bubble like beforehand. He played outstanding with Indiana this year. He averaged 19.8. He will be a big player for them in the future, but like I said before, they need health. They have every player they need right now. If they want to get rid of Miles Turner, I don't blame them if they want to get another center or just want to play smaller ball with Domantas Sabonis at center and get another small forward or shooting guard who could shoot a little bit better. But their defense is pretty good, and I expect them to be a good team going into the future. So, do you want to go to the last series, the Bucks, who just beat the Orlando Magic?
Yes, but just quick one more thing about the Heat. They're a relatively young team, but they do have some good veterans in Andre Iguodala, Jimmy Butler. So
Goran
I would
Dragic.
expect them. Yeah, I expect them to do well in the playoffs, and I believe they have a great future.
I agree.
All right, yeah. So to the Bucks versus Magic, as I was very shocked when the Magic took the first game.
Yeah, I expected the Magic to win a game. I think I had the Bucks and in my bracket I had the Bucks and I think I had them in 6 or no, I had them in 5. But I mean I could have saw the Magic winning 2 games because of how good they are on defense. But without Jonathan Isaac, it's really hard for them to to guard Giannis. As I thought Jonathan would be on Giannis, as he's a really good defender. The problem with Jonathan Isaac is he's continued to get injured. It's sad for me to see, as he's one of my favorite players in the league and has been for some time now. It's hard for me to see whenever one of my favorite players gets injured. The Magic, I think, will be much better come next season once Isaac comes back, which hopefully he can stay healthy for the whole season. They may be a 5 or even a 4 seed if that happens, especially with, I feel like, the downfall of the 76ers, the downfall of maybe the Pacers if they can't get things rolling again. We'll see some interesting matchups here in the future. And to go to the Bucks. The Bucks are the team who I feel like will lose to the Raptors in the conference finals in probably 6 games. But they could definitely win the championship. They're one of the 2 teams in the East I could see winning the championship. What do you think?
Yeah. To go back to I expected the Bucks to sweep the Magic because I have them. I believe they have a great chance to win the title. I do think the matchup against the Raptors will be very interesting. As last year, I think Game One was competitive when they between the Raptors and the Bucks, but then the Raptors just took off.
Yeah, the Bucks won game 1 and 2, and then the Raptors swept them after that and won in 6. It seems like Giannis couldn't figure out how to go by Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, who are premier. I know I say premier a lot, but they're two. That's the best tandem in the paint for paint defense. I would take them over any other 2. Serge Ibaka is such an underrated player. He plays so well in the playoffs. He's shooting well from 3. It's going to be hard, but I do see the Bucks having a great chance of winning the championship. What do you think about the Magic?
I think they're pretty good, and they do have Fultz, who I think he's a great playmaker. I think he just has to fix his shots. But I do, and they do have Vucevic, who's a great center, and they're just playing well. And I agree, they'll probably be better in the future, and they'll still make the playoffs. But to go back to the Bucks, I believe the Raptors don't have Kawhi anymore, so I think that impacts them a little bit defensively, as Kawhi is a great defender. So I think Giannis may be able to do much better than he did last year. And I know he has been working on his threes. We've seen him take them and he makes them, but usually he just misses them.
His 3 ball will be essential. If he can get a consistent, just for that series, a consistent 3, that'll change the game. Because it's going to be hard for him to score in the paint like he does against other teams because of what I told you. But if he can shoot mid range shots or just mid range, long mid range consistently, it'll be hard for the Raptors to adjust to that type of shot.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the Bucks coach has in counter from when he faced last season from Nick Nurse and his defense. Because I know they employed a special defense against Giannis.
Yes.
As
So just to the last point, so who do you have in the finals, like the 2 teams, and then who do you think is going to win?
I have the Clippers, as I think they have a magnificent bench with Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, and I think they have great defenders, especially if Pat Bev comes back. So I have them from the West, And then I have Bucks in the East. I think they're going to beat the Raptors, even though it'll be a very tough series. I think Giannis is going to push by him.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, first, who do you have winning and in how many games?
Oh, my bad. I would probably say Clippers in 6, as I think their defense is going to do well against Giannis.
Okay. I have the Lakers because of the LeBron factor. I could see the Clippers making it. I could also see a team like OKC go on a run, but when they play the Lakers, I don't know how they're going to stop LeBron. I could see them stifling Anthony Davis a little bit with Steven Adams, especially if he can come back healthier than he's been these past couple of games. But I don't know how they beat the Lakers. If they do, I think they have a much better matchup against the Clippers, as they have players who played with that team before, and I feel like the OKC has changed a lot in the past couple of years. But yeah, I have the Lakers winning the West, and as I told you before, I have the Raptors winning the East, and I have the Raptors winning in 6. However, I could see either team winning the series, and I have no preferences when it comes to that.
Yeah. I would think the Clippers beat the Lakers just because of their defense, and we've seen them in the regular season. But regular season LeBron is different than postseason LeBron. But I think it would be a great matchup to see both LA teams in the conference finals, and that I just give Clippers because of their defense and their bench. As Lou Williams, as we've seen him in the Mavs games, he's just been amazing. He scores a lot of points off the bench. I think he's scored the most points in NBA history off the bench.
Yeah, he has. I'm pretty sure of that.
But all right, so you have me saying the Clippers win in 6 against the Bucks, and then Austin says the Raptors beat the Lakers in 6.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for joining us on our first ever episode of Outsider's Opinion. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button as we will start recording more episodes. Thank you for joining us. Austin, do you have anything you want to say?
Just thank you for listening, guys. We expect to make this more frequent as the playoffs go along.
All right. Goodbye. Everyone, have a great day